The warning in chains. The tribunal chamber aboard the Kael Dominion was built for intimidation, a cathedral of cold light and silence. Its curved walls glowed with sterile white bands, humming faintly like a heartbeat that wasn't human. At the center stood a single figure in torn yellow and white fabric, blood on her sleeves, her face streaked with tears and grime. Dr. Alara Vance was no soldier. She had been a scientist, a linguist of the first contact teams, the kind who smiled even at those who saw her as prey. But now, her soft brown eyes were empty, her wrists shackled by silver bands that hummed with suppressor fields. She looked around the semicircular chamber at her judges. 6 aliens of the Galactic Empire, their green skin gleaming under the light, their expressions carved from arrogance. Dr. Alara Vance of Sol, the lead adjudicator, hissed, his forked tongue flicking between his teeth. "You are accused of treason, incitement of rebellion, and the killing of Imperial soldiers on the frontier colony of Velis 9. How you plead?" Alara swallowed, her throat raw. "I plead human," she whispered. The chamber buzzed with faint amusement. Laughter echoed, cold, condescending. From the far left of the bench, an older alien in dark ceremonial armor leaned forward. His eyes were not cruel, they were haunted. General Carthian, the only Kael present who wore the old war insignia of the human expansion campaign, watched her with something the others lacked: fear. "Silence," snapped the adjudicator. "You stand before the Galactic Empire, not your primitive courts. You will speak with respect." Alara straightened her back. Despite her wounds, her voice carried the calm steadiness of conviction. "Respect is earned," she said softly, "and you've burned every chance you had to earn ours." Carthian's claws tapped against the table. His mandibles twitched. 1,000 memories flickered behind his eyes. The smell of plasma fire, the screams of soldiers as human marines marched through smoke, their battle cries echoing even after being vaporized. He remembered the sound of drums, the kind the humans carried into war, and the look in their eyes, that strange mixture of sorrow and fury. He turned toward his peers. "Do not harm her," he said suddenly, his deep voice cutting across the chamber. "Release the human. You do not know what this will bring." The others froze. General Carthian, the adjudicator, growled, "You will not interfere." But Carthian rose, slamming a clawed hand against the table. "You fools," he roared. "You were not there when we fought them. You did not see what they become when one of their own is taken, when they bleed for family. You cannot kill her." Laughter again, louder this time. The adjudicator sneered. "You speak of them as legends, old warrior. Humanity's empire burned a century ago. Their fleets are scattered dust. They are no more a threat than the wind." Carthian glared at him. "That's what the Krell Dominion said before they vanished. The humans don't shout their anger. They bury it. They hide. They wait." Alara stood silent, her heart pounding. Every word struck like thunder inside her chest. She had known there were those who remembered, those who understood. But the verdict had already been decided long before this trial began. The adjudicator turned back to her, raising his staff. "Dr. Alara Vance of Sol, by decree of the Imperial Tribunal, you are sentenced to death by molecular disintegration for crimes against the Empire and its sovereignty." Carthian's voice broke into a guttural plea. "Don't do this." Alara lifted her chin. "Don't be sorry, General," she said quietly. "I knew this might happen." A faint smile ghosted across her bruised lips as she looked down at the floor. Not in fear, but concentration. The neural node at the base of her skull blinked once, sending a single quantum burst through the silence of space, a code buried deep in humanity's oldest defense networks. A message only one race could decode. The execution beam charged. Carthian tried to rise again, but guards pressed him down. The hum grew louder, a scream of energy building to a crescendo. Alara whispered her final words, too quiet for most to hear. "Remember me, Sol." The beam fired. Light filled the chamber, brilliant and merciless. When it faded, only dust remained where she had stood. Silence followed. Even the laughter died. Carthian sat motionless, his hands trembling. He could still feel the echo of something vast, not from her body, but from beyond the stars. Something old, waking up. He stood slowly and faced the tribunal, his voice low and hollow. "You've doomed us," he said. "Every one of you." The adjudicator scoffed. "You are senile, old soldier. The age of man is over." Carthian turned to the observation window. Through the transparent hull, the stars stretched endless and cold. But to him, they no longer looked peaceful. They looked watching. He whispered to himself, voice trembling, "They will come for her. And when they do, there will be no empire left to beg for mercy." Outside, the ship drifted through the void, unaware that far across the galaxy, deep beneath the sands of Mars, an ancient machine had just awakened, and with it, 1 billion human hearts began to burn. The transmission from Sol. The signal crossed the void like a whisper through eternity, a single pulse of quantum code, invisible to every Imperial sensor. To the Kael Empire, it was nothing. To humanity, it was everything. Far from the galactic core, beneath the rust-red deserts of Mars, something stirred in the silence. For a century, Mars had been a tomb. Its cities buried beneath centuries of sand and secrecy, its skies devoid of the roaring shuttles that once filled them. The Empire believed humanity had destroyed itself long ago. They were wrong. In a cavernous command chamber carved beneath Olympus Mons, a single light blinked to life on an ancient console. The AI known as Oryx opened its synthetic eyes for the first time in 93 years. Alert! Quantum ping detected. Source: classified. Human ID signature Dr. Alara Vance. Message fragment: "They killed her." The AI paused, cross-referencing the name with historical archives. It found her: linguist, xenoanthropologist, diplomat of the old Terran Federation. Her neural signature had been registered in the SolNet diplomatic directory, last updated 107 years ago. And yet, her signal was fresh. Oryx activated the dormant systems. Dust fell from cables as the underground base came alive with a deep mechanical hum. Hollow panels flickered. Cryogenic pods hissed open, one by one. From the central chamber, a woman stepped out, tall, silver hair braided tight, her expression composed but dangerous. Admiral Juno Kael, commander of the Titan Initiative, the last surviving war fleet of humanity. She blinked away the cryo-fog and immediately locked eyes with the awakening AI. Report. Signal received. Oryx replied, voice calm but cold. Origin: Kael Dominion. Encoded message from Dr. Alara Vance. Confirmed human distress beacon. Execution data attached. The Admiral stiffened. "Show me." A holographic projection materialized before her. The footage of Alara's tribunal, recorded from the Kael's own broadcast. It played in silence. The sterile chamber, the arrogant aliens, the trembling woman in the yellow and white dress. When the disintegration beam fired, Kael didn't flinch. She only whispered, "How long have we waited?" 93 years, for months, 11 days, Oryx replied. Kael closed her eyes. She remembered Earth, before the silence, before the Empire's sieges. The cities burned, but humanity had not died. They had gone dark, waiting for a moment just like this. "Wake them," she ordered. "All of them." In the lower levels, Project Legion activated. Vast vaults opened, releasing clouds of cold mist that revealed towering constructs. Humanoid warframes, each with the strength of a battalion, their cores pulsing with quantum light. Across Mars, domes opened to the thin sky, and satellites began transmitting ancient frequencies that no one had heard in a century. The message repeated across every hidden outpost, every colony ship in hibernation, every moon vault. The time has come. On Luna, beneath the shattered remains of Armstrong Base, the Council of Ashes gathered, the hidden ruling body of post-fall humanity. Men and women who had spent their entire lives preparing for a war they prayed would never come. The room was circular, lit by the glow of Sol through the broken dome above. Admiral Kael's hologram appeared before them. "They killed her," she said simply. No one needed to ask who her was. Every child born in exile had heard of the human diplomat who stayed behind to negotiate peace with the Kael, the last act of mercy before the fall. Counselor Imani, old and frail, bowed her head. Then the silence ends, she said. Kael nodded once. Yes, humanity speaks again. In the asteroid belt, automated foundries powered up after a century of dormancy. Massive machines began forging the next generation of human warships, the Sol-class dreadnoughts. Their hulls gleamed black as obsidian, their energy signatures invisible to alien sensors. At Titan's orbit, shipyards uncloaked, revealing the HSS Retribution, humanity's first supercarrier since the fall. Its engines pulsed with folded space drives, technology forbidden by the Galactic Accord. Humanity had gone beyond those rules long ago. In the void, a transmission pulsed outward, encoded and direct, aimed at every listening post in the Empire. This is Sol Command. You executed one of our own. You wanted our silence. Now hear our answer. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Admiral Kael walked through the awakening command deck, her boots echoing against steel floors. Crews saluted, technicians reconnected neural lattices, and AI pilots began syncing with their combat systems. Her second-in-command, Commander Reyes, fell in beside her. Admiral, are we really doing this? Full mobilization? Kael didn't slow her stride. You think they'll stop at one? Reyes swallowed. No, ma'am. Then we make sure this never happens again. They enter the command bridge. Through the viewport, Mars glowed like an ember reigniting. Kael turned to her officers. For 100 years, we waited in peace. We learned, rebuilt, and hid from the galaxy that feared us. But mercy doesn't protect our own anymore. She paused, gaze hardening. They executed a diplomat in chains. That's not justice. That's a declaration. War, ma'am, Reyes asked softly. Kael nodded. No, Commander. Correction. In deep space, something vast shifted. A massive human fleet began to rise from the shadow of Jupiter. The Titan fleet, humanity's final insurance policy. Thousands of vessels aligned, their weapons systems charging, their reactors humming with the power of newborn stars. And on every ship, across every colony, across every hidden world, humans looked to the stars and remembered her face, a woman in a torn yellow dress, standing tall before monsters. Her death was not forgotten. It was fuel. As the fleet prepared for jump, Oryx's voice filled the command deck. Coordinates locked. Destination, Kael Dominion. Fleet readiness at 97%. Awaiting your command. Admiral Kael watched the holographic image of Alera's final moment, then whispered, They killed her to silence us. She raised her hand. Show them how loud we can be. The order rang out. Titan fleet, launch. The stars stretched into streaks of light. The void burned white, and humanity, silent for a century, roared back into the galaxy. The fall of the Empire. The Galactic Empire had existed for 10,000 years. Its fleets vast, its arrogance unshakable. It had crushed rebellions, extinguished civilizations, and rewritten history across 1,000 stars. To the Kael Senate, humanity was an ancient myth, a species long broken, buried beneath its own wars. Then, in a single day, 12 frontier systems went dark. It began at the Velis 9 trade hub, the very station where Dr. Alera Vance had once stood as a peace envoy. The Empire's patrol fleet arrived, expecting a communications failure. Instead, they found silence and wreckage. Dozens of Imperial destroyers drifted in orbit, torn open like paper. The station itself had been cut neatly in half, its severed decks glowing from molecular disassembly. The Imperial High Command tried to censor the event, but within hours, the same pattern repeated at Pharaoh's Gate, Ulva Prime, Chorus Reach. Each world went dark after a single transmission arrived. A human voice, clear and calm. This is Sol Command. You were warned. No demands, no negotiations, only consequence. On the bridge of the HSS Retribution, Admiral Juno Kael stood before the panoramic view of the dying systems. Her reflection shimmered against the glow of distant suns, cold, focused, unrelenting. Commander Reyes approached from the tactical pit below. Reports coming in from all fleets, Admiral. Phase 1 complete. 16 Imperial sectors neutralized. Minimal human losses. Kael's eyes narrowed. Minimal. 2 ships disabled. No casualties. Their boarding crews surrendered before we could even respond. Kael didn't smile. They're starting to remember. The command deck trembled as hyperspace distortions rippled across the void. From the shadows of the dark spectrum, the rest of the Titan fleet emerged. Colossal vessels hundreds of kilometers long, each glowing with a blue-white pulse of singularity reactors. Every alien race watching the holofeeds froze as humanity's fleets appeared from nothing, bypassing all known forms of FDL navigation. No drive signatures, no warp trails, they simply arrived. In the galactic capital of Vornaxis, chaos spread like wildfire. Imperial senators screamed across the hall, demanding explanations. Military analysts swarmed the displays, trying to find patterns in the impossible. The Emperor himself, a massive Kael with golden armor and crimson scales, watched in silent fury. "Who are they?" he demanded. A trembling analyst turned. "They identify as human, Your Excellency, from the Sol system. But the files, they were destroyed centuries ago." The Emperor's tail lashed against the floor. "Then find whoever failed to destroy them completely." At that moment, the chamber's lights flickered. The central display filled with static. And then a face appeared. Admiral Kael, calm as stone. "Emperor Valroth of the Kael," she said evenly. "Your empire executed Dr. Alara Vance, a Terran citizen and diplomat, under false charges. You were warned by one of your own. You ignored him." The Emperor snarled. "You dare invade my territory, human?" Kael didn't blink. "We don't invade. We correct mistakes." Before the Emperor could reply, every Imperial defense satellite around Vornaxis exploded simultaneously. The broadcast cut to black. Across the Empire, the war had no fronts, only endings. At Zerith 4, a human AI fleet infiltrated the planet's orbital defense grid, reprogramming every weapon platform in 90 seconds. The aliens guarding the planet surrendered before a single shot was fired. At Krell Gate, humanity deployed what became known as the Silence, a weaponized signal that shut down all quantum communication within 3 light years, isolating entire fleets before vaporizing them. At Kael Dominion, the Empire's flagship fortress, General Carthian stood on the command bridge as the stars flickered strangely outside. He knew the signs he had seen a lifetime ago. "They're here," he whispered. The tactical officer turned to him. "Who?" The question died in his throat as something massive decloaked before them. A ship larger than moons, black as night, its hull etched with glowing silver script. HSS Retribution. By the stars, the officer breathed. Carthian closed his eyes. "No, by humans." The Imperial captain barked orders. "Raise shields. All batteries." The ship never finished the command. The Retribution fired once, a beam of compressed gravity that folded the Kael Dominion in half. The blast carved a wound through space itself, shattering the dreadnought like glass. From the wreckage, escape pods scattered. One pod, shielded and burning, spun away. Inside it, Carthian barely survived. As he drifted through the chaos, he watched the Retribution pass overhead, its engines glowing with the blue fury of an artificial star. Human voices echoed faintly through the comm channels, transmitted on open frequency. "You were warned. You executed peace. Now you will know war." In less than a week, the Kael Empire ceased to exist as a unified force. Worlds surrendered. Colonies abandoned their governors. Even the Empire's allies, the Viren, the Thal, declared neutrality, unwilling to face the same wrath. Humanity didn't raise cities or slaughter civilians. Their fleets simply dismantled every symbol of imperial control, seized archives, and deleted records of the Empire's rule. They did not conquer. They erased. From his drifting pod, Carthian's transmission reached the survivors of the Senate. His message was a single line. They're not monsters. They are consequences. The Emperor's escape cruiser was the last to fall. The Retribution intercepted it near a dying star, disabling it with a single graviton pulse. The Emperor himself was dragged onto Kael's deck, snarling and bound. Kael stood before him, silent. Around them, the vast hangar hummed with the quiet fury of restrained vengeance. "You could have listened," she said softly. The Emperor bared his teeth. "You think this will last? The galaxy will fear you again, and then they will unite, too." Kael's gaze hardened. "Then we'll teach them again." She turned to her officers. "Jettison him." The guard obeyed. The Emperor's scream vanished into vacuum. As the stars burned coldly around them, Kael looked out at the wreckage, the remains of an empire that had once spanned the galaxy. "Alara," she whispered, "they'll never silence us again." Behind her, the human fleet turned toward the galactic capital, not for conquest, but to deliver judgment. Humanity had not returned as a nation. They had returned as a reckoning. The reckoning and the warning. The galactic capital of Vorn Axis had once been a city of light, a world of crystalline towers, orbital rings, and golden palaces that gleamed like suns. Now it drifted in silence. The towers lay in ruin, smoke rising through shattered clouds. The orbital rings hung broken, their fragments tracing slow arcs across the planet's thin blue sky. The war, if it could even be called that, had lasted 13 days. At the heart of the devastation, within the great Senate Hall, what remained of the Kael High Council gathered in the cold glow of emergency lights. The air smelled of ozone and fear. Alien leaders, once proud governors of 1,000 worlds, now whispered like frightened children. And then the doors opened. A woman stepped through the smoke. Admiral Juno Kael moved with deliberate calm, flanked by armored human marines in black exosuits that hummed with quiet menace. The moment she entered, the room fell silent. No grand speeches, no guards rushing forward. Everyone in that chamber had already seen what happened to those who resisted. Kael's voice cut through the air, sharp and quiet. "You called this the heart of the galaxy, but it beats no more." Her words echoed. Behind her, a group of engineers carried a shimmering hollow emitter. They placed it on the Senate floor. A beam of blue light rose, and Alara Vance appeared. Her holographic form clear, dignified, and forever frozen in her final moments before execution. Every alien in the room turned away, unable to meet her eyes. Kael looked at them, her tone controlled but burning with restrained fury. "You all watch her die. Your networks streamed it. Your children saw it, and not one of you spoke against it." She let the silence drag, the weight of guilt pressing against every throat. Counselor Vra, a small avian species, stammered, We did not know she was still protected under." Kael's gaze snapped to him. "Protected? By your law." Her voice sharpened, cutting like glass. She was human. That was all the protection she ever needed. Vra lowered his head. Kael continued, "We came not for conquest, not for power. Humanity could have burned your worlds to cinders. We chose restraint, because she would have wanted it." She gestured toward Alara's flickering image. "She believed in peace. You murdered that belief." Carthian stepped forward from the crowd, bruised, old, his armor dented. He had survived capture during the fall of the Kael Dominion and now stood with the others, his gaze steady but sorrowful. "Admiral," he said, voice hoarse, "I tried to stop them." Kael looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. "You warned them. You remembered." He bowed his head. "I remember what your kind can do. I thought the galaxy did too." Kael exhaled slowly. "They do now." She turned to the assembly, her voice rising for the first time. "You called yourselves a civilization. You prided yourselves on law and order, on justice and progress. But you forgot the oldest law of all, that actions have consequences." She pointed toward the hollow of Alara's death. "This is your consequence." The projection shifted, showing footage from the war. Human fleets striking surgically, cities left untouched, armies disabled without slaughter. Every image a testament not to cruelty, but to precision, to control. Kael's eyes softened just barely. We are not monsters. We are human, and that means we remember mercy, even when you do not deserve it. Outside, the human fleet hung in orbit, silent, unblinking sentinels above the capital. The massive HSS Retribution loomed among them like a god of war, its engines dark, waiting. Kael's orders were simple: no more blood. The galaxy had learned its lesson. In the days that followed, humanity established what became known as the Soul Accord, a universal decree written in the ashes of the Empire. It contained only 3 laws. 1. No species shall harm, enslave, or execute a human under any circumstance. 2. No empire shall wage war upon another without counsel and mediation. 3. The Soul System is sovereign and beyond interference. Any violation would be met with immediate and absolute correction. The Kael remnants signed without argument. The others, the Viren, the Thal, the Krell, followed in terrified silence. The galaxy united under the threat of humanity's return, but this time, not out of fear of conquest, but fear of awakening their wrath again. Later, alone in her quarters aboard the Retribution, Kael sat before a small holographic memorial. It displayed Alara's smile, bright, alive, wearing the yellow and white dress she had died in. Kael poured a measure of amber liquid into a glass and raised it toward the hologram. "You were right, Alara," she whispered. They needed to remember. The AI, Oryx, appeared beside her in soft blue light. "Peace has been restored, Admiral." Kael's gaze didn't waver from the hologram. "Peace is just silence between storms." Oryx tilted its head. "And what will you do when the next storm comes?" Kael smiled faintly. "Remind them again." On Vorn Axis, General Carthian stood on a balcony overlooking the ruins. He watched as human engineers and medics helped rebuild alien infrastructure, silent proof that humanity's vengeance had been tempered by compassion. A young Kael officer approached him. "Sir, are they leaving?" Carthian nodded slowly. "They've done what they came to do. They don't want to rule. They want to be remembered." He looked up at the sky, where the human fleet shimmered against the sun. "And they will be." Days later, the Retribution's engines flared. One by one, the human ships turned away from Vorn Axis, aligning with the Soul star charts. Kael stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind her back. The stars glimmered before her, endless, patient, watching. Commander Reyes approached quietly. "Orders, Admiral?" Kael looked at the stars where Alara's signal had first come from, and then home. "Set course for Sol," she said. "We've done enough." Reyes hesitated. "And if they forget again?" Kael's expression hardened. "Then we'll remind them who taught the stars to burn." The fleet vanished into slip space, leaving behind a galaxy that would never again doubt what humans were capable of. Not destruction, but consequence. And as the silence settled across Vorn Axis, the message of the Soul Accord echoed in every corner of the known universe. Don't kill her. Don't harm them. Don't wake what you can't put back to sleep.